Hello everyone, Nicholson here, and welcome to Coming Soon Movie News with Nicholson. I'm your host, and on this show we're going to be breaking down all of the day's movie news and kind of giving a little bit of background into what it means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, director announcements, things like that. So, before I get into today's main topic, I do apologize that we haven't had any videos up within the past week. I've been suffering from some health issues, but they seem to be getting better, so I am able to come back and do a few more episodes. So this one's going to be more condensed. It's going to be kind of a recap, if you will, of a lot of the big news that came out last week. Mainly just everything dealing with Spider-Man and everything dealing with Star Wars. So before I get into the Star Wars stuff, I'm going to start off with The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with my review. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I went and saw it last week, and I enjoyed it. I'm going to give kind of a brief overview of what I felt about the movie, and then I'm going to talk about a few spoilers. Not the main spoilers of the movie, but a few of them, just things that could potentially lead into the future films, as well as certain things that I felt that they just did incorrectly altogether. So I'll give you my overall impression. I felt that it was the best version of Spider-Man that we've gotten so far. The character of Spider-Man is what I mean. I mean, he's more of a smart aleck than he was in the first one. He has more wisecracks. Some of them don't come across as well as the majority of them do, but I felt that overall it was the best version of Spider-Man that we got. Every time that he was on screen, he's flying through the air, he's enjoying it, he's loving it, he's really embracing being Spider-Man. It's the first time we've seen that without him acting like a real kind of idiot. Like, he did that in Spider-Man 3. He was really loving it, but he acted like a moron. In this movie, he's a lot more centered. He has a better understanding of what the role of Spider-Man is, and that's the main progression throughout the movie is, as someone explained it perfectly, they said the first movie was about him learning to become Spider-Man. And in this movie, it's about him being Spider-Man, learning how to also be Peter Parker, as opposed to them just being one person. And so that's what this film is really all about. The main problems that I had with it were, first off, Electro is a very cool villain. He has some very intriguing action sequences, especially the Times Square sequence, which happens about midway through the film. But on the flip side of that, the character of Max Dillon, who is basically Electro is Max Dillon. Max Dillon becomes Electro. He is just pathetic. I don't even call him a sympathetic character. There were certain parts, yes, where you did kind of feel sympathetic about him, but it almost feels like in the editing room they removed the aspects of his character that you actually wanted to root for or cared about. Because you see him in a sequence where he's talking to himself in the mirror about being, Spider-Man's best friend, and how Spider-Man needs him, and how he's the most important person in the world. But Max is just a person who literally has no friends. His mother didn't even remember his birthday. He walks around work holding a flyer that says "Happy Birthday, Max," and it's a made-up party invitation, just so that it'll be a conversation starter, so that people will talk to him. Like, he's just very pathetic. You don't even want to root for him. And when he actually becomes Electro, even though he is very cool, he automatically goes from being this really kind of pathetic individual to being this megalomaniac who is hell-bent on destroying everything. And it just didn't make sense. It felt like they originally wanted Electro to be the only villain, and then they figured, okay, well, there's a couple of things that we want to do, and in order to do those, we're going to need the Goblin. And so then they wanted to get the Goblin in there. And then the Goblin, the way that I perceived it was they treated Goblin very similar to how they treated Venom in Spider-Man 3. He was ham-fisted in there. He didn't need to be in there. And then Rhino did not need to be in there at all. Rhino was just setting up for the next film. So overall, I felt that it was entertaining. The movie doesn't quite know what it wants to be. It goes from being a very slapstick, silly kids film to being a very serious, more mature adult film within the span of several minutes, or not even several minutes, within only a few minutes. So I felt that they really kind of dropped the ball on that one. I don't know if maybe it was taken out of Mark Webb's hands in the editing room, or what happened there, but okay, so that's my overall general impression of the film. Now I want to get into some specifics about the film, so if you don't want to know anything else about the movie without having seen it first, then you're going to want to skip ahead into the video, so just keep clicking ahead until I get onto the Star Wars topics. But this is where I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff. So one of the things that really bugged me about the movie was the inclusion in the trailers of key footage that was never included in the final film. Like the one sequence in the trailer where Harry Osborn goes, Oscorp's been spying on you, been keeping an eye on you for this long. And Peter goes, why? And Harry goes, wasn't that the question of the day? That's not in the movie. That's not even hinted at in the film. There is a line in the trailer who you can pretty much tell through the voice that it is Chris Cooper who is saying it, and he goes, "We have plans for you, Peter Parker." That's not in the movie at all. Spoiler alert: Norman Osborn's only in the movie for like 5 minutes, and then he dies. Supposedly dies. They you don't actually see him die. It's just a press release that gets released, but it. It doesn't make any sense to me to cast someone of Chris Cooper's caliber and only include him for 5 minutes. They're going to be keeping him, but they're going to be most likely bringing him back. And one thing that really leads to this is in the movie, first off, there is no after credits scene that deals directly with Spider-Man. As soon as the credits start rolling, everything that's, I mean, watch the credits because there's certain references to the Sinister Six, but the only after credit sequence is for X-Men, and it is not related to the movie in one way, shape, or form. But yeah, the main thing, like Goblin is completely shoehorned in. The only reason there's one specific reason why they needed Goblin in there, and that's the only reason why they shoved him into this movie. What I would have liked to have seen is have them build up the character of Harry Osborn, which they did really well, and then have Goblin come in as a villain in the third film. But unfortunately, we only got him. You've seen the entire Goblin action sequence in the trailer. It's very short, very short. And it doesn't make any sense. The Rhino is the very end of the film. It is literally it's almost like they finished the movie and then they went, you know what? Let's just add this on too, because the movie actually ends, and then we get this scene, and it's like a 5-minute sequence. If it was just a minute or two, then I wouldn't have had a real problem with it. But the fact that it takes up so long, and he's such an annoying character. He's overly ham-fisted Russian stereotype. Everything about it is just absolutely abysmal. I don't know why they got Paul Giamatti, unless they have something big planned for him in the next one, and the character's going to take a complete 180. Because I just felt that all the villains in this movie were very lackluster. The movie in my personal opinion, I feel that the movie focused way too much on the Gwen Peter storyline. Even you wouldn't get this from the trailers. There's not as much action in this movie as I thought there was. There's the one sequence which is the cold open of the movie, which doesn't. It's a flashback. It doesn't really fall into the story, so I don't even count that scene. So you got the opening truck sequence, the Times Square sequence, the power plant sequence, and the Rhino sequence at the end. There's only 4 action sequences in the entire movie. Like there's not a lot of action in it, and a lot of the action you've seen because of the absorbent amount of trailers that they've released. Like it's just been ridiculous. But one thing to think about is that this movie to me felt a lot like Iron Man 2. Where the sole purpose of it was just setting up the future installments of expanding this universe, setting up the future installments of this property. Because first off, the after, or not even the after credits, during the credits, if you look behind the actual credits themselves and you look at the graphics that are on screen, they actually do reveal what's most likely the final lineup of the Sinister Six. So you see part of Goblin's glider, you see part of Vulture's wings, you see Rhino's horn, you see one of Doc Ock's claws, you see the Kraven the Hunter's shield, and the last one is kind of a mystery. There's 3 possible candidates that this could be. The most likely, and especially considering that Mark Webb has actually said this in an interview just very recently, it's most likely Mysterio. So I'll pull up those images again. So we have the Goblin glider, we have Vulture's wings, we have Rhino's horn, we have Doc Ock's claw, we have Kraven's shield, and what is most likely Mysterio's smoke that's coming out of that mask. Now, we don't really know what it is. That mask could also be either Black Cat, because Felicia Hardy is included in this film in a very, very small role. She's the assistant of Harry Osborn. It could also be Chameleon. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that it's Mysterio, just because I've said on previous episodes I hope that they do Mysterio. I think he's a fantastic villain. He's something that we haven't seen yet. He's full magic. Um, so I think that would be really intriguing. And Mark Webb, just in an interview, stated that they asked him about what he wants to do for Spider-Man 3. And the first word that came out of his mind was Kraven. He goes, yeah, Kraven, you know, Doc Ock, Vulture, they're kind of cool. Mysterio would be really intriguing to do, but Kraven is really the one that I see as a good fit for the third film, potentially. And he goes on to say, and this I'm paraphrasing, he goes on to say, because it would be nice to have a villain that didn't directly tie in, or his origin wouldn't directly tie in to Oscorp, because that's what this movie has set up. It's set up that Oscorp is the end-all be-all for all the villains in the Spider-Man mythos. So it looks like everything's going to be stemming up from there. But I think that going with someone like Kraven the Hunter is definitely a smart move, although I don't think that you only do Kraven the Hunter. You have to have someone else in there, because Kraven's not big enough of a villain. He's a hunter. So the action sequences, in my personal opinion, I don't think, without them really having to stretch your imagination, I really don't think that they're going to be able to do some very intriguing action sequences with just Kraven. I think what we're going to do is we're going to get Kraven. It's probably going to set up Doc Ock or Vulture. I actually hope we get Vulture, because we were originally supposed to get Vulture in Spider-Man 4, back when Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire were coming back to do a fourth one. Vulture was going to be the villain. John Malkovich had been cast in that role. So I have a feeling it's going to be Kraven and Vulture, and they are going to be leading into the Ultimate Sinister Six movie, which will most likely be the one that's directly after Spider-Man 3. So Spider-Man 3 comes out in June of 2016. They're going to be starting production at some point this fall. So we're probably going to get some more information as this comes out. But again, Amazing Spider-Man 2 just came out this weekend. So the one thing, I don't believe I've already mentioned this yet, but there was actually a deleted after credit sequence. Because in my mind, when you're watching the movie, you're gonna think that the Rhino sequence would have felt better as an after credit sequence, because it doesn't tie in with the rest of the storyline. It does set up a future installment. It is too long to have been an after credit sequence. I think if you had taken out the little kid from that sequence, then it would have been fine, because it just didn't make any sense at all. But in the after credit sequence, Mr. Fears, who is the guy with the black hat, the guy who's always in shadow. In the end of Amazing Spider-Man 1, he was the one who visited the Lizard in his prison cell, and he also at the end of this movie sets up Rhino. So there's a deleted scene, or a deleted after credit sequence, which had him approaching the special projects compartment, which is where they have the Doc Ock and Vulture wings, the Rhino suit. And he was going up to a container which had a cryogenically frozen head, and in there was the head of Norman Osborn, and he goes, "Wake up, old friend," and the eyes open up, and then that was going to be the end of it, to show that Norman Osborn's not actually dead. The one thing I will say, though, I really did like, even though they didn't explain it very well, I did like how they explained how Harry actually does physically transform. And you even see that with Norman when he goes and has his conversation with Norman. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. But overall, I was a little disappointed with the movie. I am going to go and see it again, just because with the health issues that I'm dealing with, I wasn't quite enjoying the movie, mostly because I was in a little bit of pain. So I'm going to go give it another shot, but I have a feeling that I'm not really going to change my opinion all that much. But I am still looking forward to this expanded universe. I feel that this was just the stepping stone to get them out. Get their ideas out there, spread this world open, and be able to really kind of go from there. And so now we're going to talk about the major announcement that came out last week, which was Disney and Lucasfilm have unveiled the official cast of Star Wars Episode 7. As most people predicted, the returning cast members from the original trilogy, the episodes 4, 5, and 6, are Harrison Ford as Han Solo, Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, Carrie Fisher as Leia Organa. We have Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker back as both C-3PO and R2-D2. We also have Peter Mayhew returning as Chewbacca. The new cast, and a lot of these guys were rumored for a while. Adam Driver pretty much was already confirmed, but we have John Boyega, who people might remember from Attack the Block. He's also in the new 24 series. Very unknown Daisy Ridley, who I think only has a TV show to her credit, is most likely playing the daughter of Han Solo and Leia. The reason that I say that, and the reason that it's even online, that this is a rumor, is because in the overall cast photo, I'll bring that up here. This was the official cast photo that was unveiled for Star Wars Episode 7, showing them for the table read. The reason that they did it before May the 4th was because they were having that table read, and it was information was already starting to leak out. Last week I did talk about how, you know, Mark Hamill was seen in London, Harrison Ford was seen in London, Carrie Fisher was on her way to London, so... but if you look here, she's seated right in between Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford. That is just leading people to believe that she is going to be the daughter of Han and Leia. So we have Daisy Ridley as well. Adam Driver, who we all but knew was going to be involved in the movie. He's most like, again, none of these are confirmed, but he's most likely playing a villain. It's looking increasingly likely, especially if you know his track record, like with Girls, or any of the other movies that he's been in, except for Inside Llewyn Davis. He wasn't really a bad guy in that, but he's most likely going to be playing a villain. He's a very talented actor. I'm really intrigued to see exactly what he's able to bring to the table. We have Oscar Isaac, who was rumored only days before this announcement came out. We still don't know who he's going to be playing. I'm going to go out on a limb. Judging by his demeanor, he's going to probably be playing either a villain or a shady individual. The one that came right out of nowhere, the legend Andy Serkis. Now, people might not recognize Andy Serkis's face. He is the man who is responsible for bringing to life Gollum in Lord of the Rings and in The Hobbit. He is responsible for King Kong. He is responsible for Caesar in Rise of the Planet of the Apes and the upcoming Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. He runs his own motion capture company in London called the Imaginarium, where they just consulted on, I believe they consulted on Godzilla about the motivations and mechanics behind how he would move. I believe that they worked on, or he at least consulted with, oh, why am I drawing a blank here? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, dealing with the motion capture there. He is the end-all be-all to motion capture. So it's really intriguing to see him involved in this. We don't know if he's going to be playing a live-action character, if he's going to be playing an alien. We have Domhnall Gleeson, who most people will recognize from the Harry Potter films. He played the oldest Weasley brother. He was also in Dredd. He was recently rumored to be in contention to play Doctor Doom in Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four remake for Fox. So it's no surprise that he's being sought after for a lot of high priority roles. So we have him confirmed in there. And then last but not least, we have Max von Sydow. And Max von Sydow, a lot of people remember him. He's Ming the Merciless in Flash Gordon. Obviously, you know, Minority Report. He's been in a lot of great movies over the past several decades. I mean, he's just a talent. And a lot of people are reminded of the Alec Guinness casting in the original trilogy. And then also with like Ian McDermott Ian McDermott in the new trilogy. So it's Christopher Lee as well. It leads to a lot of people thinking that he's potentially going to be playing a villain, and there's actually a rumor that's come out about this, which is the possible subtitle for the movie, and it could lead into his character. So again, take this with a grain of salt. We don't have anything confirmed yet, but the possible title for Star Wars Episode 7 is Star Wars Episode 7: The Ancient Fear. And it may deal directly with Max von Sydow's character, who is said to be a villain even scarier than, as this quote put it. Now, I don't know how legitimate this is, so again, file this under rumor, but more insidious than the demon who takes a hold of the character in The Exorcist. So the one thing that we do know about the storyline of the movie is that it takes place 30 years after Return of the Jedi. But the fact that we now have the cast, the filming of the movie starts officially on May 14th. We're going to start getting, I hope at least we're going to be getting some more information about this film, but we're still 18 months away, 19 months away from the release of this movie. So We still got a lot of time. They got a lot of work ahead of them. The one thing that really gives me a little bit of hope, though, is they are doing a lot of practical sets. So it's not going to be completely CG. It's not going to be completely green screen where they're just like, oh, look off there into that orange dot on that green screen. It's not going to be that. They're actually going to have things that are tangible that they can interact with. Which I think is definitely the right course of action to do. But we have J.J. Abrams at the helm, Lawrence Kasdan, the man responsible for both Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, for in terms of the screenplay, is back to write it with J.J. Abrams. So there's a lot going on with this project that I think is very beneficial. But the fact that we now officially have the cast, we know the original characters are returning. Harrison Ford is said to have a gigantic role in this movie. That leads me to think that they're going to kill him off. Because, first off, why would you single out Han in this movie when the whole purpose of this movie is to kind of pass the torch? Originally, the original characters were only supposed to have minor roles, according to sources online. They were only supposed to have smaller roles, and that's what Michael Arndt's script was, the original screenwriter that was brought on. He was then replaced with J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan because they wanted to further expand the roles of the original trilogy characters. And with Harrison Ford not only lobbying for decades to kill off Han Solo, but the fact that his role is now gigantic, I have a feeling we're going to see him die in this movie. And I mean, you can't really blame them. I mean, Harrison Ford's now in his late 60s, late 60s, early 70s. So you can't really blame him. The one thing I was really surprised about when you look at the photo, and even the other photo that I showed the other day, or last week I should say, Mark Hamill is in such good shape. He has lost a lot of weight. The guy really let himself go. I mean, you can't really blame him. He had a terrible car accident, and he was really affected. He's been dealing mostly with voice work, so he hasn't needed to have that visual persona. But I mean, he's got the scruff growing. He's really lost a lot of weight. I think we're going to get the old Jedi Master look out of him, which is going to be really cool. But once we start getting some filming underway, then I think we're going to get a lot more information. So stay tuned for any more information about this. All right, well, that'll do it for Coming Soon Movie News with Nicholson. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have been a great audience. Don't forget to click subscribe at the bottom of the screen there for getting updates on any time a video is posted. As well, go ahead and subscribe to me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Nicholson, Niklsun, to get all your movie-related information. And anytime I post anything on there, I will try to get it on the next episode's show. And you can go on and like our page on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/movie news with Nicholson. And also, don't forget, anytime you guys have a comment or a question that you'd like to discuss on the show, you can email me at movienewswithnicholson@gmail.com. You can put a comment in the comment section to just talk about any topics or have any questions or just start a conversation with anybody else. As well, you can message me on Twitter at Nicholson, Niklsun, and we'll try to cover that on the next episode. So without any further ado, thank you so much. You guys have been a great audience, and you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.